Hey, good morning. Bob here. Today's Thursday, the 27th of August, 2026. And I am back on this cedar top this morning. It's 8:35 in the morning. Workshop is 79.5 degrees and the relative humidity is 43%. So I'm going to keep the air off because it's early. And I've already been up, I've already scraped. If you remember yesterday, I super glued the binding, just the top of the binding, because it was, there was a little bit of tearing out there going against the grain with the scraper. So I super glued it and stopped. And then this morning I resumed scraping, and I've already sanded with 220 and the plexiglass block. I've already sanded the binding flush with the cedar top in this manner with the grain. And you can clearly see all around the periphery where the sanding has taken place, the scraping and the sanding. It's gotten a little tiny bit thinner here, the top. I consider this my third graduation. It's very, very slight. It's really almost insignificant. But it happens when you are scraping and sanding the edges of the, the binding and purfling where it meets the cedar top in this case. I'm also checking for clogging of the sandpaper because this isn't the normal sandpaper I would use for sanding finish. Normally, if I were sanding finish, I would be using a white colored stearate paper. But I'm not sanding just finish, I'm actually sanding the top here as well. So, any case, I've already gone around this, and what I'm doing now is just for demonstration purposes. Hard plexiglass block. This is actually transparent, but the yellowed paper backing gives it kind of an amber look. If I peeled that paper backing off, it would look clear. Not that it matters, it could be any color, it doesn't have any significance. I learned these plexiglass sanding blocks from a former friend of mine, and I won't mention names, but he was a rather ingenious kind of guy. In the end, we couldn't get along, but he did have a few good ideas here and there. So I like these plexiglass blocks for certain things. Okay, so now I'm going to go to 220 sandpaper with the half-inch felt block. This is hard felt, but it does have a bit of, when I squeeze it, it does have a bit of, give to it. And I've already sanded here some. I've already started to sand the top. I have a fresh piece of 220 purple paper here, and you can hear the difference. It's a new piece. I'm going to go lightly on this shellacked portion that remains, because if I go heavy, it's going to clog the paper quickly. And the idea here is to prepare for French polishing, although I still have yet to scrape the sides of the bindings flush with the sides. Okay, so that remains to be done, and also roll over the edge here. It's very sharp right now. I'm gonna roll it over with a scraper and sandpaper. I will do that after I finish sanding the top. So I'm getting close to French polishing this top and the other top as well. And I like to do several coats of French polish before I glue on the bridge and before I glue on the fingerboard. Now, I want to say one thing, that this is how Robert Desmond does it. This might not be how you do it. So I'm not saying that my way is the only way or the best way. This is just what I do. When I sort of studied with Manuel Velasquez, he used an oil varnish. When I met him, he was using oil varnish for the top and back and sides and neck, everything. He did oil varnish. But as time went on, he had more requests for French polished tops. Hold on one second. So he succumbed to the requests, and he would often, if I'm not mistaken, toward the end of the time that I spent with him, he was doing more French polishing on the tops and oil varnish on the back, sides, neck, head, you know, all the other parts, bridge, okay? He would use a Pratt and Lambert number 38 oil varnish, and he would use the gloss finish. And he would do maybe 7 coats, sanding in between coats for the oil varnish. I used it for the first 10 years of my career. Maybe the first, I'd say 8 years, let's say. I kept going toward French polish, but I did use oil varnish, and I loved it. What I didn't love was the smell. It was obnoxious, and I would put it on with a brush, and I got very good at it. Not to brag, but I did get good at applying it, sanding in between coats, and then at the very end, once you have sufficient material, sufficient varnish on, and you don't have any voids or, you know, issues, the last coat gets wet sanded with soapy water and, you know, wet or dry sandpaper, starting at about, I can't remember, it was so long ago. I would say starting at around 600 on the last coat. And I used to do that. I could varnish an entire guitar and have it strung up in a month. I couldn't make it in a month, but I could finish it in a month. French polish takes a lot longer for a really good finish. Matter of fact, French polish is almost never ending. The one thing I want to say about the finish, I do use French polish now because it's easier to repair, and I can get a guitar that looks really good in a few days. You know, I can polish it up and it, you know, looks almost done. But it definitely isn't as tough as a varnish or lacquer. I've never used lacquer. It's either been varnish or French polish for me. And it takes quite a long time to get to be a good French polisher. And it's interesting medium because some days you're on top of the world with it, and other days you might as well go to the beach instead. Now, as you can see, I am unclogging this paper in between sanding sessions. It's out of frame, but I'm taking the back of a number 11 X-Acto knife blade, and I'm just kind of nicking off the little clogs in the paper. I'm going to vacuum this again. But what happens here, I do this a few times with 220, I do get the finish off, and it's important to get as much of it off as possible so that I don't have a gradation of dark to light on the edges. Excuse me. So there was something I was going to say, but I forgot. Oh, I know, there is something. I had a little tiny gap up here. Every once in a while it happens. I might cut the purfling channel a little wide or whatever. And sometimes I'll get a gap right here. And I just filled it with some hide glue and rosewood dust, Brazilian rosewood dust and hide glue. And I masked it off here and squeegeed it in to the crack just to fill it a little bit, okay? And that's what that is, if you're wondering. All right, so one thing I'm gonna do at this point, I'm gonna hit this with a tack cloth. That will get some of this dust off for me. It's a brand new tack cloth, well, fairly new, and it will definitely help me. It'll help the paper from not getting clogged as much. It also shows me where I need to sand. But you can clearly see that the periphery has been sanded and scraped more than the middle of the guitar. Thus, the third graduation. Okay, we're going to continue, and I'm going to start right here, lightly. Check my paper. It gets clogged pretty quickly. So I have to, if I don't unclog it, I'll get streaks, sanding streaks, and that's not cool. Yeah, so getting back to Robert Desmond and the way he does things, I was watching a guitar maker this morning on YouTube, I'm not going to mention his name. And he's a very opinionated guy. And some people might laugh because I guess all of us guitar makers tend to be opinionated. But we're not always right with our opinions. There's many ways to do a job. Some people would never use tight bond glue for anything. Some people would never use varnish or lacquer. Some people would never use French polish. We all find our way based on our personalities. I might add, as I'm sanding this guitar, I have a intuition. I could be wrong, but I have an intuition that this is going to be a very nice sounding instrument. And you would say, based on what, Bob? And I would just say it's just an intuition from listening to it when I sand it, listening to what kind of a sound is coming back to me. You might also say to me, well, why aren't you tapping the guitar to listen to it, change in sound, etc.? Well, I think tapping is a good thing to do just to familiarize yourself with what a guitar sounds like at different stages of construction. But if you think you're going to tap a guitar and it's going to tell you how good it's going to sound when it's done, I think that's romanticism. The only time I really will sort of come to some kind of a conclusion what the guitar is going to sound like is when it's all together like this and I tap the soundboard, especially when the fingerboard's on, and even more when the bridge is on. When it's all together and before I put the strings on, it's a great time to listen to it, tap it, listen to it, and see if you can unlock what it might sound like. I think if you're going to use tapping, then you need to use it with some kind of electronic system where a microphone would listen to it, and that tap sound would put sound waves on a graph, and you would start at an early age of guitar making, perhaps, and you would look at those graphs from guitar to guitar, and you would recognize some similarities in those graphs from guitar to guitar. And based on the results of what those guitars sounded like, you would come to some conclusions, and after a while you would be able to look at that graph and you would have gained the knowledge that what you're seeing on the graph in fact is going to yield a good sounding guitar. Excuse me one second. I think it's, I don't think you can tap a guitar and it's going to tell you, you know, that this guitar is going to sound great, or this guitar isn't going to sound great. But I do think that once the fingerboard is on and the bridge is on, and especially if the guitar is finished with lacquer, shellac, or varnish, you can really listen to those tap tones. And after doing this for a while, you start to hear things that you know, based on many guitars, you know that you're heading in the right direction. But I really think that if you're going to use tapping as a method of extrapolating sound quality, you need to do it with microphones and some kind of software where you can chart those sound waves and you can compare them over a period of many years and learn that system that way. Now, one thing I do, when I make thicker top guitars like this one, they're going to come out with a higher pitch. Instead of coming out at around G or G sharp, they're going to come out at A sharp, B flat, same note, or even B sometimes. They're a thicker top. They have a higher pitch. And a lot of people think that a guitar has to be in G, has to come out sounding in G. And I think that's hogwash. I think there are different kinds of guitars. Some come out in G, some come out in G sharp, some come out in A. And yes, I understand that the pitch that they come out in could set off certain overtones of a like note. Okay. So I think at this point, just for the sake of the video, I'm gonna pretty much stop here. But I did want to, I'm gonna do some more sanding to this. Keep in mind, this is 220. It's really not taking off much wood. It's mainly taking off finish. But you can already see how the difference between the periphery and the center, they're coming closer together in color. The periphery being sanded off, in other words, the finish. And now I'm working to sand off more of the finish in here. And believe me, it'll come off. Another thing I wanted to tell you once again is, don't forget I'm working with 220. And it's really important that I finish off sanding this top with my hand, not with a block. And I use double-sided paper, which I make up myself. This is 220. And the hand will contour to the shape of the top. So it's important to get away from the block at some point and sort of blend everything together lightly. Why am I doing it lightly? I'm doing it lightly not to clog the sandpaper as quickly. And you can see as I'm doing this, everything is starting to look better in color. Now I don't use orange shellac. I use a super blonde. I let time add the color to the guitar. I don't like red guitars and super orange guitars. They look cheap to me. I also don't like pure clear guitars. And I'm talking the soundboards especially. Now the more I sand, the less clogging I'm going to get because the shellac has been mostly sanded off. Checking the back of the sandpaper, whacking it on my apron here, and flicking off any little you know, what they called, little shellac clogs. That's pretty good. Now, I'll keep going on this. I just wanted to sort of show that. I'm actually gonna vacuum this off shortly, and I'm gonna hang it up in the other room and do a little bit more work to the other guitar. I want to scrape the bindings on the sides because I haven't done that yet. But in essence, I will continue sanding this with 220, then I'll go to 320, and I will, I would say after the 220, I'll probably scrape the sides over. But before I do that, I will make the bindings flush to the sides. Okay. Then I'll roll over. This is very sharp right now, and I'm going to roll that over quite a bit so it's much more comfortable. It's some pretty heavy-duty scraping and sanding, and I'm not going to do the back yet. I'm just going to do the top, because I'm not working on the back right now. I'm really trying to prepare this to start French polishing. And I will do easily probably 8 to 10 full sessions before I glue the fingerboard on. And I won't glue the bridge on until the guitar is entirely French polished. Okay? So anyway, I'm going to sign out with this, but I wanted to show you, this is in fact the Cedar guitar I was working on yesterday afternoon in my last video. And this is the way Bob does it. This isn't the way somebody else does it necessarily. So what I'm doing is I'm sharing with you, whoever's watching, sharing the way I do it. I believe in passing on knowledge. If you can get something out of this, fine. If you think it's trivial and not important, that's fine. But keep in mind, it's a combination of scraping the top bindings so that they're on the same plane as the top. It's also doing a final third graduation to the edge. It's a very slight graduation, but in fact, it's sanding and it's removing wood, as you can see. All right? And I guess that's about it. I think when I get to the French polishing part, you might pick up a few things, pick a few pointers, because I don't consider myself an expert at it, but I've been doing it a long time. And there are days where I do it pretty well. So anyway, maybe you can get something out of that. I am starting to get excited about this guitar and the other one. I'm excited about them both, as I always am. And in fact, when these two guitars are strung up someday soon, in the next few months, hopefully, maybe 4 months from now, there is going to be one guitar that will sound better than the other one. And better is a word that is difficult to describe, but I will say personal taste. One of these two guitars I'm gonna like more, and I don't know which one it's gonna be because I love the sound of spruce, but I'm always amazed at cedar. And this is a particularly beautiful piece of cedar. Good cedar is hard to find these days. So anyway, all right, well, that's all for this one. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week. It's Thursday, and if you're a working person, tomorrow's Friday, and that's always a good thing. So I hope this helps some of you, and have a great day. Bob out.